And the next seminar, it's called Storytelling Through the Senses, and our speakers are Claire Warner, and Monica Berg. So I'm not going to say too much. You have these two women that have a lot of experience. You have won awards. And the best part is that they are here to share their knowledge, their experience with you in order to achieve in the industry. Right? Okay, guys, have fun. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? This is a terrifying room, by the way, so I just want to put it out there. I just want to start. We have 30 minutes, we're going to be quick fire. I want to start with just talking a little bit about the problem with strawberries. Delicious Don Julio flavour. We should have one of those actually. Why not? Let's talk firstly about the problem with stories. We tend to kind of share a lot of information in this business. Like this is, of course, a hospitality business, but we do love to talk about our knowledge. And what we see often is that we communicate through facts only. We don't tell enough stories. This is the problem with stories, so there's simply just not enough of them. And we tend to kind of begin any sort of sharing of information with a variety of what I call the 4 Ps. We typically start with talking about like who are we? What do we do? Who's the head chef? Who's the head bartender? Who's the master distiller? We start with the first person. And we might talk about geography. Where is it from? What's the provenance? What does this bring to the production process? This is the theme track. Theme tune. It's very good. What's the production process? Are you doing it when I'm speaking? Can you just wait? Right, anyone else? Are they all open? Right. Are you done? Don't you dare! Don't you dare! Right. Production. Oh my God, guys! We've only got 30 minutes. We'll be here for an hour. Right. Okay, then we talk about production process. Then we talk about what have we produced? How have we produced it? What has the provenance of the production brought to the methods that we use? And then finally we talk about the thing, the product. What have we produced? What have we made? Is it a cocktail program? Is it a delicious tequila? Is it a Paloma like you're drinking now? And we talk like this all the time. We see it constantly. And this is fine. This is great. It's a really effective way to deliver information. But can we make it better? Can we connect more meaningfully? Can we connect more emotionally? Yes, we can, and we do that through stories. So, once upon a time, 2 women walked into a bar and they fell in love. I'm Claire Warner, I'm head of advocacy for Diageo, and you don't need me to introduce this woman. She is winner of all things, world's best everything, of course, owner of Taya Elementary, and storytelling extraordinaire. I've put our 2 pictures facing each other this time because Athens Bartender had us as enemies, but we're not. We love each other very much.
I was sending Claire snippets of those about to die. It's curious. The whole weekend she's picking up. Just because it's the outfit.
You're picking up. So we've got 30 minutes to cover these 2 sections. So I'm going to talk about why stories matter, why stories work. I'm going to talk a little bit about stories and how they spark a rational desire. I'm going to leave you with a storytelling framework. Now, if you Google a storytelling framework, you'll probably get like a million results. But this, for me, is a storytelling framework that I love and I really think works. Monica, what are you going to talk about? Who knows? You might go off beat. Yeah.
I'm going to, there's a lot of times when we talk about these very theoretical topics, and it can be hard to translate that into real life practices, because sometimes, unless you kind of address it head on, it's difficult to understand how to take this knowledge, this information, and apply it to your everyday situation, and kind of just reap all of the benefits of it. So that's what
we'll see. Okay, so let's firstly talk about why stories work. Why do stories matter? In essence, stories are probably one of our oldest forms of communication. They have an incredible ability to time travel. Think about the way that our brains have evolved. They've evolved in response to the stories that our ancestors were told. This is why they're so powerful. Our brains react when we start to tell a story. Right now, as I'm talking, your brains are responding to my words. There's a very small area of your brain that's lit up. It's called the Winnerix area. And it's a small part of the brain, not because I'm delivering anything boring, maybe not yet, but it's a small part of the brain that's literally interested in translating my words into meaning. Nothing else. But if I start to tell you a story, if I say, oh my God, Monica, yesterday, you won't believe it, I was so late for my presentation, and I got to the stage, and someone handed me a shot of tequila, and I was so nervous, I just necked it, and then I was like really feeling like so scared to do my presentation, and I had to rush over from one presentation to another, and I could really taste that tequila, and it was like all I could taste for the whole day. Your brain has now started to actually come alive. Stories, even if they're bad stories, will activate the brain in a way that words do not. When we start to enter into a dialogue, into a storytelling structure, our brains light up. And that's because of something called mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are our brain's best friend. They reach from my brain into your brain and connect us empathetically and create emotion. And it's emotion that drives behavior and drives action. And this is ultimately why storytelling is so powerful. Now, I'm sure you all are familiar with this quote from Descartes. I think, therefore I am. He was very influential in the 17th century to help us understand how we are so different from our prehistoric ancestors. He helped us to see that because we are Homo sapien, wise man, we are the thinky monkey, that this separates us from our prehistoric ancestors. But now we absolutely know that this is bullshit. We can peer into our brains and see what's happening when we are fed a story, or when we are fed an experience, or when we are fed great food, great drink. Areas of our brain light up to help us feel emotionally about what we are consuming. And when we consume emotionally, we are many more times likely to remember. So much research has been done around how you respond to facts and how you respond to feeling. And we are 22 times more likely to remember a fact when it's wrapped up in a story. So it's more accurate today to say, I feel, therefore I am. So how? How though? How do we feel our way through life? How do we take stories and help them make meaning for us? Well, we do that through hormones. And what are hormones there for? Well, ultimately, they're there to stop us from being dead, to not make us be dead. And the first hormone that kicks in when we're listening to a story, any story, is cortisol. And when I think of cortisol, I think of this. Stop now. Stop it. That's cortisol's theme tune, right? Cortisol helps us to survive. Cortisol generates fight or flight. Cortisol is what's making me shit myself in front of all of you lot right now. Cortisol is flowing through my veins, making my heart rate, making my palms sweaty, making my knees weak, mum's spaghetti. All of that is happening because of this hormone. So why on earth would cortisol be coursing through our veins the second we hear a story? Anybody want to make a guess? Why is cortisol so important to us when we hear stories? Our prehistoric evolutionary brains still sit in our heads. They haven't evolved very much. So when we hear a story, we're automatically leaning in. Cortisol helps memories stick. Cortisol helps sharpen our focus, make sure that we're about to remember the facts that are contained in this story, because those facts might be the difference between us surviving a tiger attack or us not. So cortisol, as soon as we start to tell a story, even if it's a terrible story, our brains are leaning in. The second hormone that kicks in is kind of like opposite to cortisol. Stop playing. The second hormone that kicks in is oxytocin. And oxytocin is considered to be the love hormone. It's released during childbirth. It's a powerful brain killer. But it also is really crucial to the way that we process stories because it helps to connect us. So when we're hearing a story, we're feeling that story as if it was our own. So cortisol and oxytocin combined help create memories, important memories. They help make sure that those facts are embedded into our brain. But crucially, oxytocin makes sure that we feel that story as though we were living that ourselves, living through that story ourselves. And that's where the emotions come in. Emotion is what drives behaviour, which creates action, which drives us to do something, and that behaviour is driven, of course, by our hormones. So oxytocin, cortisol combined through a great story, or not even a very great story, makes us live and breathe the stories as if they were our own. And if you get it right, what you do is you spark desire. And you can do that even more effectively. It's kind of unfair in a way with what we do within our industry, within our professions. Because we can tell a great story and our brains are listening in and we're feeling it and experiencing it, and maybe we're even tasting or smelling or feeling the sensation of a well-told story. But we can supercharge that with what we do because we are physically giving people great things to eat and drink in our venues. So we have an unprecedented ability to actually create incredible emotional experiences that resonate with the people that come into our venues. And why is that important? So important. By the way, so important because more than ever, our guests are deciding to stay at home. We know that footfall is down, we know that disposable income is under pressure, we know that there's a threat, an existential threat in many ways to what we do because many customers, guests, consumers find reasons to actually stay at home, not spend money, not go into bars, not engage with other people. So stories and the experiences that you create are an incredibly powerful way to bring people out of their homes from behind their screens and give them a powerful emotional experience, something that they can't have at home, which will ultimately help to boost your bottom line. So how do we spark desire? We connect meaning. Why do you do what you do? We connect meaning with difference. Why do you do what you do, and why is it different or distinctive to the bar next door to you or across the road? And if you can do that through an emotional way, you can tap into the emotional needs and desires of your customers or your guests, then we make what you do more valuable to the people that come into your bar. We make it also memorable. They want to come back because they remember how fantastic an experience they've had with you. And ultimately, what we're all in service of is creating great, wonderful, memorable, sticky experiences, because that is what's going to drive people from their sofas into your bars. Not only that, but your guests will be prepared to pay more for the experience that you create for them. So you are driving people into your venue through the experiences that you create, but also you are equipping them with a desire to want to spend more of the experience that you've created for them. So how do we do this? Well, it's important that you find your own storytelling framework, but this is one that I really love. Why do you do what you do? Connect with why you do it. What's your purpose in what you do? And then connect with your consumer on an emotional, deeper level to help them understand what's so special about what you do. Support to create a hero. All great stories have a hero or an anti-hero. Let me give you a clue. You are not the hero in your story. You are not the hero or the anti-hero in the story that you create. You are a guide to your customer's experience. If you put yourself in the position of a hero, you will not connect emotionally with your customer or guest. They need to be the hero of the story that you create for them. You need to build tension, anticipation, we all have a bit of that. And so we want to create the experience that pulls you in, wants you to lean in. Make it a little bit more difficult to have a great experience, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But if you do that, you need to ensure that you deliver on your resolution. People don't want to leave your bar wanting so much more that they feel unsatisfied. So close your experience with something meaningful, memorable, and distinctive. Provide a satisfactory conclusion. I'll hand over to you now, Mon, to talk about sensory storytelling.
Yes, so I think that obviously I could take it in many different directions, but I will start just with it.
Yeah.
We all sat through these presentations that talk about branding, talk about logo, talk about all the things. And if anyone ever questions the value of having a sound logo, a sound identity, then now you know. Now you know why they do. So yes, I'm going to talk about, how can we take all of these things and apply it to basically what we do every day, because it sometimes can be very difficult to translate that, because we, on a personal level, on a human level, we understand all of the things that Claire said, but it's sometimes difficult to take those things and then apply it to everyday life, unless someone says, oh, actually, that's how we can do it. And I said, oh, wow, that makes so much sense now that someone told me that I should do it, but up until that point, it was lost to me. And this is the also some of the powers of stories. So, some of the things that we forget sometimes is that you have to create a plot, first of all. And the plot is actually quite given to us because it has a start, it has a finish, and it's when the guests arrive, that's the start. When the guests leave, that's the finish. But everything else within that time frame, we can contribute to, we can affect, we can impact, we can decide to some degree what the plot, the narrative is. We cannot, of course, dictate what the end result is going to be, but we can do our best to impact, And I think it was probably here, or maybe in Berlin, many years ago, Dinos from Lost and Found in Cyprus, he said that, you can open your bar, you have all the best intentions, you have your vision, you have your goal, you have everything prepared, and then you open your doors. And everything that you decided was the story is not the story, because there's the third player, and that's the guest. Because they can come into your space and they can decide, actually you decided this, but we decided that. And you have to roll with it. So you open yourself up, so you create the plot, you create this beautiful destination, which is your bar, and then you just allow people to come in and take over. And that's part of the story. You have to be okay with not being in charge. But that's also the beautiful part of it, that you get the feedback and you change. And so it's a story that is constantly evolving. People, they don't want to be lectured. They want to be told, they want to be shown, they want to be, part of the narrative. They don't want to be outsiders. Like Claire said, we, the bar, the staff, we are not the main character. We like to think that we are, of course, so we can pretend, but the main character here is the community around your place, whether it's the people that work there, whether it's the people that visit. And you have to accept that, otherwise you're almost destined to fail. So the last thing is, every story has these twists and turns. So in this particular story that I made a typo in my slide, So it's actually meant to say, what couldn't be without you? That's a very different type of sentence.
Very
But
kind. I think that was my typo actually, but okay.
But perfection is something that is unachievable. We should always strive for it, but we never achieve it. That's part of our story and journey. But you have to look at what is your strength. Do you want to be a passive participant in this club? No, because yes, you can open a bar just because everybody's opening a bar. You can have no opinions. You can serve the same drinks that all of the other people or bars are serving. But or you can have an active role in the story. And if you as the kind of narrator or the creator of the plot build these layers of details, you allow the story to unfold again and again and again. So even if people come on their first or their 100th time visit to your place, they will discover something new that they maybe didn't see before. It can be a new flavor, it can be a new drink, it can be the fact that they are on a date for the first time or a date for the 10th year anniversary of their wedding. It can be, all of these things can happen within the space of the story if you build up for that. And that's how we create stories in hospitality, because we don't create stories by making necessarily posts on Instagram or making a website we make stories that are people's experiences every day. You stand in the bar, you hear someone say, oh, happy birthday, blah, 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 blah. You can choose to take that story then in different ways. You can ignore it, or you can get annoyed if someone says, hey, it's my birthday, can I have a free drink? Or you can just all in, let's bring the sparkles. I don't know. You choose. You can choose how you want to amplify that story and give people those memories and those experiences, because that's ultimately what's going to change. And I think probably many of you in this room has read this book by Professor Charles Spence, Gastrophysics, How the Senses Impact Flavor. And there's a part in his book where he says, when you speak to diners in a restaurant, a year after they went to the restaurant, most of them, almost 80% of them, will have forgotten what they ate or drank, but they will remember still a moment during the visit, a highlight of the visit, and that's almost always something that is a personal interaction. It's something that happened that was unusual. It's something that is not necessarily related to what was served or what was consumed, but it's part of the experience. And I'm not saying that drinks and food that you serve in the bar is not important. It is, of course, important. But the context that you are doing so, that's what creates the bigger picture. So, of course, we need to apply all of our senses to our storytelling as a venue, as a professional. So we need to think about the flavor, the smell, the sound, the texture, the temperature, all of these things. It needs to, as a professional, that's our job. We are there to curate a good menu, a good selection, to execute great drinks, great food that people can't necessarily get at home or can't recreate at home. But we can't ignore the setting that we are doing so in, because if we do, we're already setting ourselves up for failure. So you have to pay attention to the volume of the music that you're playing, the style of music that you're playing, the ambience, the lighting, the furniture, every single aspect. Because people, either consciously or unconsciously, will pay attention to this, and it will impact. There's this one page in the book where he talks about this restaurant in Switzerland that starts every visit by putting this cow on the table that makes this cow sound, which obviously I understand sounds different in every single language, but not everybody says what a cow says in Norway, but you can imagine. Because also, probably some of you know that I really like cows. So I used to have one actually. Gone. But wait, sorry. And it just erased the stress of the day. And it erased the impressions that have happened throughout before that experience started, and it allowed the guest to reset and start this experience from page one and say, okay, I'm here, I laughed, I'm happy, I'm open-minded to explore all of the things that I'm about to explore. And you know, sometimes you need to play around with that. And for example, in my bar, which some might have visited, when you enter Tayer, which is the space in the back, you see that there's nothing that is very familiar with being a bar, as you would imagine a bar is supposed to look like. And that's on purpose. That's the reason why there's no back bar with familiar bottles. Because the story that I want to tell about the drinks that I want to serve is that I want you to be open-minded to try something new. It might not be your favorite drink, it might not be the everyday drink, but it's something that you haven't tried before. And if I give you your comfort blanket or your safety bottle, the bottle that you always reach for when you are unsure what to go for, then you're going to go for that, because I already made you uncomfortable with the fact that my bar looks like something between like a Aesop shop and a car dealership. So I work on purpose, because I want people to not go for what they normally go to. And that's the story of my bar.
And also, so just to add to that, 50% of people that walk into a bar don't know what they want. So that's a lot. So if you're giving them a comfort blanket, guess what? They're going to go for what they see and recognise. It's intimidating to walk into spaces. And so part of the role is to take them on a journey and perhaps give them an experience that is unexpected versus what they've already always ordered.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that also it's important for the future growth of our industry and our profession is that we need to somewhat, and I know this from a personal point of view also is very difficult because I take everything personal. Very personal. But we need to allow ourselves to be comfortable with the fact that not every single person that walks into our bar is going to love it. But sometimes we are the villain in the story, you know? Sometimes we are, oh my God, I can't believe this bar doesn't make fresh cocktails, whatever fresh cocktails are. Cocktails are attached. I can't believe that we are doing this. Can't believe that we are doing this. Oh, this is such a shit place. That's great. But by coming to my bar and thinking that it's shit, then maybe you can go to another bar and thinking it's great. Because now I showed you something that you don't like, which means that you are one step closer to knowing what you do like. And that's also part of the kind of storytelling, is like taking it different directions. It's very rarely that you have one story, one book, one plot that fits everyone. And if that's the case, I'm pretty sure that that book is very boring. And it's probably only read because you have to get a stamp or something like this. Like a driving license, I don't know. I don't know. But I think the last thing I just want to mention about the kind of stories that we tell is that, you know, it's not a solo endeavor. I think that what we need to be better at is sharing the kind of the plot with all of us. So we need to tell the stories also about the people that are make it possible for us to do what we do. We need to incorporate kind of layers of the ingredients that we use, the producers that we work with, all of these, because these are our allies, these are our, you know, heroes in that way. And I think that at this point in our industry and in our kind of development, we really need to, as bartenders, go back to, you know, supporting the producers that we like and the brands that we love, because otherwise they might disappear. I know that sometimes it seems like these big brands, they are unrockable, they will never disappear because they're so big, but that's not always true. And, you know, things change because we change, and they are allowed to change also with us. But I think that we really need to, once we decide which direction we want to go, we really need to get like a deep layer of understanding and knowledge so that we can accurately portray that to our guests walking into the bars. And then, of course, no story would be final without delicious cocktails, because that's the ultimate goal. That's the hero. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. The hero is still the guest. But I think that, you know, telling stories through liquids, through flavors, to experiences, to memories. I think that it's a very underestimated part of society and part of life. Unfortunately, a lot of, in the wider society, I don't think that bars or people working in hospitality, people taking care of other people, get the credit that they deserve fully, because most people, they aren't even aware of that narrative, because it's just there to give them what they want at any given time. So it's not a, we are not in a place where we have to comply with everything. We can have boundaries, we can set the limitations of the stories that we want to tell. But at the same time, I think it's very important that we also remember that we are maybe not the hero or main characters, but we are a very essential part of the story of both our own journey, but also society in general. And I think that in the future now, in the next few years, we really need to work hard, but also stand our ground to make sure that our industry doesn't get lost and doesn't suffer, both sensorial-wise and otherwise.
Yes, lovely. So just in closing, look, you're being told to get off the stage, so but stories are part of who we are. Stories make us human. We are addicted to story. Even when we go to sleep, our mind stays up, telling itself stories. Lean into the fact that storytelling is part of who we are and how we consume information. Don't be afraid of creating a narrative. Don't be afraid of evolving a narrative. Don't be afraid of taking your guests on a journey, ensuring that they are the guide, that they are the hero and you are the guide. Lean into story and it will transform your business. They lived happily ever after.